Hello, world, and welcome to the Innovation Coaching Podcast. My name is Klaus Rostel, and with me today I have Zainab Quresh. Zainab, tell me how I can help.
Hi, so I'm a solopreneur and I run a small business and I'm a full-time freelance brand designer. So my major struggle is always wearing multiple hats every day. And as much as I would love to spend more time refining my craft, designing more, and exploring my creative side, I often find myself being stuck in the business side of things, mostly sales, because that's something sort of that runs the engine of my business, right? So I was wondering if you could help me find some kind of clarity or direction in terms of how I can create a system where I don't have to reinvent the wheel every time I'm looking for a client or a new prospect.
I like that. Clear, clean, to the point, and something a lot of people can relate to. So let's start by figuring out which of the assumptions I've made already are wrong and which ones are not. First assumption, tell me if it's wrong. You could easily do more actual brand design work, but you spend a lot of time hunting for clients. Yes?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
Got it. Okay, so that's an assumption that is correct. Number two, the way you find them is to you unclear. Is that right or is that wrong?
I can expand that a little bit.
So how do you, if I ask you now, how do you get new clients? Do you have a clear button you can push? Or do they sometimes come in and sometimes they don't, and sometimes it's a bit random and sometimes it's not? Or is it you just like you have a video, a commercial video, and you pour money into that and then clients come out? Or do you have a button you can push where clients come out of?
Not really, no.
How do clients come in right now? How do you get a new client?
Okay, so there are three things, right? There are three ways. First one is, I would say, word of mouth. Past clients, I've been doing this for about 5 years now. So past clients refer me, and that's how it works. The second thing is most of my clients are international. So I get to attend these online networking sessions or workshops or something where I run into these people. And it sort of happens that we get into a conversation and build a relationship, which is like a long-term plan because they don't normally ask for my services immediately. So building that connection and bond, and then eventually sort of
Mhm.
hoping it sort of gets into some kind of a client transaction or something like that. And the third one, I would say, is through content marketing and content creation. So I've been building my personal brand since a little more than 5 years now, and that has helped me build that credibility and a little bit of social proof online, and again building relationships and a trust factor there.
Okay, makes sense. Three good ones. Who are your clients right now? Like, who do you have most of? Who do you get once in a while? Who have you had once but never again?
Okay, so my primary set of clients are based in the US, women, small business owners, entrepreneurs, mostly in the creative, I would say, industry. And my ideal client would be someone, I think, yeah, almost someone who is based in the US, UK, or Europe. Again, women entrepreneurs. But I would say I want to expand the industry a little bit. Like, I'm not concerned that they need to be from the creative industry or from what I do, but a little bit more to something that I can offer and like explore.
Hmm. Okay, that's a pretty broad segment,
Hmm.
right? When I look at your LinkedIn, which is nice, there's a good smiling picture there. Then I see things like our listeners can't see it, but I can, so we can talk about it. It says Zainab Quresh, and there's a nice star sparkle thing, freelance brand designer. Okay, and then it says here, helping women service providers move from fear to fierce by building brands people trust and remember. Okay, not bad at all. Hey, women service provider, ready to bring your vision to life with your brand identity online and offline. Move from fear to fierce. how does that resonate with people? Like there's quite a bit of information cooked into that. There's the brand thing, there's the fear to fierce, which some would say, is that about my brand or is that about myself or is it about both? Then there's women service providers, which of course is a nice narrowing it down. Tell me how that lands with people.
Okay, so it's both personally and professionally. So personally, I would say it's a little, so this is like like very controversial opinion, but I would say women have it a little bit difficult than men in the,
That's not controversial. That's just
yeah,
any sort of statistical truth, I'd say.
right. So yeah, that's what I feel. So it takes a little bit more to sort of start something on your own. So this was from my personal experience. And I worked a couple of years at an advertising agency, and then coming out and doing something on my own did take a lot of courage and sort of believing in yourself and like reminding yourself that whatever you hear, it's just noise and you are here for a bigger purpose. So that was one thing, right? And professionally, I feel like just what I do, like building a brand that you truly are proud of and putting that on social media as the second step, it is very difficult. Like it is very scary to just put yourself out there, right? For people to judge, people to love, both, you get a bit of both. So that's where that happens, right? And I want to help women build a brand that they are proud of, but they're not shy or not afraid to put it out there for people to admire, love, hate, whatever it is. They are happy with what they are putting out there and what they are building on their own, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And it also leads me to a place where I can see where there's at least potential, right? Maybe this will resonate, maybe it won't. So bear with me if you completely disagree, that's okay. But from what you just said, you stand as a brand designer. And that means that if I hear, oh, Zainab's a brand designer, then I'm thinking, okay, so she will help me design my brand. She will help me design both the visuals and the logos and the messaging and the vibe and the atmosphere and the language and all this sort of thing. You will help me design. Yes?
Yeah.
That's at least my idea. And am I wrong? Am I totally wrong there?
Yeah. No. You got it right.
Okay. Good. So far, so good. But then you said something else interesting. You said helping these women to get to a point where they feel confident saying, here am I. I'm ready for the world to judge me. Some of it will love me, some of it will hate me. A lot of it won't care, even though I think everybody cares and everybody's eyes are me, they're really not. And that is hard because you're putting yourself out there and somebody's going to slap you and somebody's going to yell at you and somebody's going to lie about you and somebody's going to misunderstand you. Also, somebody's going to love you and somebody's going to admire you and somebody's going to be inspired. But that is tough, especially for women, not biologically, but culturally, women are told, don't make mistakes, where men are generally told, make lots of mistakes, just don't cry, just don't show emotion. You can fail, just don't cry. Where women are, you can cry, just don't fail. Right. And that makes it a lot easier being an entrepreneur because there's a lot of failing and the crying we can do at home. But to me, those are two different things. Not so much the crying, the failing part, but the teaching that, because one of them, if we said it was about painting a kitchen, one sort of brand designer is if somebody says, I'm a kitchen designer, then I'm thinking, oh, okay, cool. This person will come in and work with me and design my dream kitchen. I'll pay for it and I'll pay you as well. And at the end, I will have my dream kitchen. That's one very relevant thing. That to me is the brand designer part. But the other thing that you say is, if we're using the kitchen analogy, is do I even dare to have a different kitchen? Do I even dare to build my own kitchen? Do I dare to make different choices? Or do I just go with the standard because that's safe? I live in an apartment building with 800 people and they all have the same kitchen. Do I dare stand out and have a kitchen of my own? What will my guests say? What will my mother say? What will my kids say? oh my God, am I even allowed to have a kitchen of my own? What if I want 2 refrigerators? What if I want 2 dishwashers? What if I don't want a stove? What if I want it weird? Right? And these are 2 very different things that once you've decided you want a new kitchen, then maybe you go out and do it on your own and put it up, or maybe you get a kitchen designer to help you. But before you even need a kitchen designer, you need to go through the process of, I can decide my own kitchen. Right. In this case, I see it as 2 things that you do both, but I think they're actually quite different. And one of the things you do is you empower and guide and help female service providers go from fear to fierce. Say, hey, you can show yourself, you can be seen. Don't be afraid of the world, or be afraid, but do it anyway. Be fierce. Show who you are, show your true colors, and then say, okay, I'm ready to show my true colors. Yeah. Then you say, by the way, I think that color of magenta goes well with this pink, or this color of brown will be bad if you have black text on that, and that messaging could be off. So one is you have the craft skills of understanding language, understanding composition, understanding messaging and colors and spaces and all that sort of thing for the brand identity. The other thing is that you understand the empowerment that is needed to even get to the point where you're ready to go out and say, I am here, this is what I stand for. And those 2 don't necessarily go together, because one of them fits squarely within brand designer. The other, which I sense is also a pretty big part of what you do, to me has nothing to do with brand design, but everything to do with business empowerment and self-confidence and daring to take chances, and being a little bit more ready to take those hits and to take those punches and make those mistakes. And that's super valuable. But it has, as far as I see, because I do some of that work as well, it has 0 to do with brand design. Yes, it has something to do with it, not 0. It has something to do with who you are as a brand. But most people, when they think brand design, they're thinking of the brand identity, not just the colors, but also the slogans and the messaging and the stories and the vibe and that sort of thing. What sort of email can you expect to get, and what does the website look like, and what are the slogans, and how will they respond if you're late for a meeting? But the core of that is this empowerment piece. And I happen to randomly, I teach, sometimes I teach self-confidence at something called the Female Leadership Institute, with these young career women who are super engaged and super dedicated and skilled and smart, but a lot of them suffer from massive self-confidence issues and haven't had that. They're not ready to take those hits and to say, hey, I'm right and you're wrong, because it's scared, because people hit you and yell at you and are annoying and don't believe you and misunderstand all the things, right? But none of them think I'm a brand designer. None of them would call me if they needed a brand designer. They might call me if they need a confidence coach, or if they need a performance coach, or if they need somebody to teach them tricks on how to perform and how to stand by yourself and dare to be a freelancer. But none of them would call me for brand stuff. And I think you're doing both right now, but it's actually 2 very separate things. And your title says brand designer, which is much more in one end, and your passion and the way you describe it says moving from fear to fierce, which is completely different.
Okay, I have a few thoughts.
Yes, probably many. Share.
First of all, I never thought of it as 2 separate things. So it's very interesting perspective for me to actually divide the 2, because brand designing is something a lot of designers do, right? Like there's so many brand designers, graphic designers doing what I do, like exactly what I do, even better, right? The fear to fierce part is something I feel that brings in the emotional impact, not just the deliverable that I'm giving, the actual product that I'm giving, because you're saying there are 2 different aspects, right? First thing is the product that I'm providing them, the deliverable, the actual brand identity or social media design or whatever that is. And then with that, there is this coaching kind of a aspect that helps them sort of get out of their head or gets them more confident with their brand, right? So my idea behind this was, firstly, if you're creating something, this thing is sort of merging the two. Because once you've created the brand, it's not for you, right? It's for your ideal client. It's a business, most importantly. So you will want to put it out there. So you'll have to do a lot of mindset work when it comes to putting it out there. I'm just here to build it for you. I can't take it to the next level. Like, you need to have that, you need to do that inner work to take it forward. So if you have that from the foundation, from the ground up, you know that, like, I'm confident with whatever I have. This is not just what's right for the brand, it's also feels right to me. Like, more than the look, it's also the feel, like look and feel both combined. So that's where I feel like these two things, they merge and create one product. That's where I'm coming from.
Mhm.
So that's my kind of thought process. And it sort of sets me apart as well. Like, I use it as my differentiator, because not a lot of people do that, I guess, like brand designers. And from my personal experience, I don't just work with women entrepreneurs just for like a transactional relationship. I truly try to understand if we are the right fit, which means if I connect with their mission, connect with their passion, if I can truly help them achieve what they are looking for, only then I try to get some kind of a offer or create some kind of package, especially for them, so that they achieve their goals. So for me, that emotional aspect is not separate from business. A lot of people do keep it apart. You know, they don't want to get into emotions. They just want to like do the thing and leave. But I'm someone who is a little more emotionally invested. By that, I don't mean with the work. Like, with my work, when I press send, I know that whenever they criticize or whenever I get any kind of criticism from my clients or otherwise, I know that I'm passionately detached from that. It's not me, it's my work. But I'm talking more about the connection with the client. So if I understand the client, only then I'll be able to create something that they want, or bringing their vision to life. That would be possible. So that's something that I feel like the process behind what I've written and what I believe in.
I like that. That means that for you, those two are linked together. So you're both the kitchen designer and the person who says it's okay, you can have the kitchen exactly as you want it. Here, let me help you create the kitchen of your dreams.
Yeah.
But that means that I think if that's the case, and I love that, I think that's awesome, then I think branding yourself as a freelance brand designer is shooting yourself in the foot. Because that's saying you are just like all the others, except that you care. But the others care as well, or at least they say they do, right? It's like saying, how are you a better consultant than the others, or what makes you different? Well, I really care about my clients. Okay, well, so does everybody else. Well, I really want them to succeed. Okay, so does everybody else. Well, I'm really passionate about my work. So is everybody else. Well, I'm an expert in car companies and figuring out how to make ground floor employees produce more. Oh, interesting. Or, oh, that's not us. We produce bread, right? So by calling yourself a freelance brand designer, you are making it easy to understand that you're a brand designer, but it's much harder to understand the other part, which is for you an essential part, right? Where if we, and this is just rough, you're the messaging expert here, right? So, but this is just rough, that if you say you help women service providers find their voice and or help them dare to have a voice and help them refine it once they've found it. Something like that. It needs to be a little bit nicer, but something like that to make that integral, because right now it's not super clear. You say that you help them by building brands people trust and remember. Yeah, that's not wrong, but you actually do much more than that. You help them, and then you also help them build a brand. You help them dare to be themselves, and then you help them show themselves to the world. Right? I did quite a few years ago. I was doing a session, a coaching session for or one of these like brand mission, la sessions for a small web design company. and they were trying to figure out what the hell they did, and they were all over the place, and they ended up with a statement the whole company completely believed in. That is to say, we create websites for companies so they can show the world who they are. And that resonated with them, right? It probably wasn't a lot different from a lot of other things, but it was clear to them why they liked doing websites, because they got to help these companies show the world who they were. And if you're a company who says, I am cool, or I do interesting things, but nobody understands, then maybe, just maybe, you want somebody who can help you with that. And I think where we have here is that you're a little bit disjointed with the two parts of you, right? That both parts are super cool. But I think that the brand design part, the deliverable part, has a little bit too much branding focus, where the empowerment part could do some more, would be my advice on this, right? It's just advice. You can ignore anything you don't like, of course. But especially when you talk of it, the passion there is less a passion for the right color and fine tuning the message, and more a passion for empowerment. And that fear to fierce, okay, I think from a grammatical point of view, I'd say fearful to fierce, but that's just my grammar kicking in. But female service providers, that's a pretty clear target audience. Or maybe it's even female entrepreneurs with service businesses, but we're more or less there. Like, you're pretty clear on that. But when it says, and when you say you move them from fear to fierce by building brands people trust and remember, well, honestly, I think from what you say, you don't. I think you move them from fear to fierce, and then you also help them build a brand identity around that fierceness.
Okay. So what I'm trying to say is that, firstly, it's very difficult for people to understand what a brand designer does itself, like just those two words.
Yes, yes.
Right? They understand graphic designer.
Yes.
Yeah. So from writing like freelance brand designer itself is something that I would have to explain.
Yes.
Okay. So then adding the emotional part would just be like too in depth. Like, they wouldn't, if they want to know more, then I would say more. That's that. And the part where people say, okay, the brand that people trust and remember, that's something that connects with the product. And that's something that people understand. Fear to fierce is a much more deeper concept. Like that's more like my mission and vision kind of more like, something that is not tangible. Trust and remember is something that people, it's tangible from the product that I provide and create for them. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I just don't think it's very clear. I think that but I think you're right, that freelance brand designer, what the hell is that? And I come from the world of experience design, right? What the hell is that? What do you do? Oh, you do experience design. What is that? Nobody knows. Do you make shoes or airports or bars? Yes, yes, and yes. Okay. Well, I didn't get any wiser, right? And I think that especially because you work with brand and with brand messaging, right? You have this 7-step framework even, which I found. Then the first thing that should be super clear is your own brand. And if you need to explain to people what you do, and then a core part of what you do is just, as you say, unnecessary complexity, then I think there might be some rethinking in order.
True. Yeah. Yeah. That's why I'm here to learn.
Yes, yes. And that's why I'm saying that I think we need to look at it, or at least one way of doing it is to look at it less as a title, because there is really no title for what you do. No, there's no easy shorthand. If you tell people that you paint houses, then they're like, oh, okay, I get it. If I have a house that needs painting, you probably could do that. And if I don't, then you don't. And then they might say, could you paint a car or a kitchen? But they know it's mostly houses. They're probably not going to say, can you fix my sewers, or can you do a website because you're good with colors? It's a different skill set, and we understand that. And the more you move into things that are tricky, but potentially valuable, the less you get from the language. And I think that from that brand designer, as you say, few people know what it is. They think it's kind of glorified graphic designer. It's like when I've said when I told people I work with experience design, then a lot of them said, "Oh, so UX." It's like you could be, but not necessarily. It could easily be a website as an airport. And they're like, "Oh, then I don't get it." Where if you say to them, so part of it is taking what's a client you have and what did you do? What's you have like one of these ideal clients. Where do you take them and where do you take them from? Let's say I'm a female entrepreneur. I have my small business. I've got 3 employees. We sell we sell running shoes, right? We sell running shoes, and I'm trying to build that into a business, and I do local events and I sell to my local community. I've had success and I'm trying to break through, but I don't really feel I have a consistent brand. I don't really, it's a little bit hit and miss. What the hell do I do? Or is that the wrong sort of customer? I guess the first thing is finding out who are you helping here? Are you helping the women who are ready to have a strong brand identity, but they just don't know how to do it? Or are you helping the women who don't have one and don't really know what it is? Or are you helping the ones who are a little bit afraid to make mistakes and therefore they don't have a strong brand identity?
Okay. So I would say I'm focusing more on service providers, right? So selling shoes may be something that I'll think about, like consider, depending on the actual thing that they want out of it. Like I would say packaging design would come from a shoe brand,
Sure.
but that's something, but that's something that I don't normally offer. So when it comes to service-based businesses, is normally selling something online. So I focus on digital aspect, which is ideally social media. So that's where I feel my expertise lie in. So for example, I would say an ideal business would be someone who is, let's say, in the health and wellness industry.
Mm-hmm.
My first client was, so I'm just taking that example.
Sure.
She was in the health and wellness industry, a massage therapist, and also someone who offers coaching with it.
Mm-hmm.
So firstly, the process is that we do strategy together. Again, to understand a lot of things that again will start making sense when I actually go ahead and start designing the brand for her, right? So the first thing is the story. Why are you doing this in the first place? How did the idea come? Like, why do you want to do coaching also, right? So she told me that that's something that comes naturally to her. Some clients come with pain, but they don't know that it sort of affects their mental health and a lot of other things. So then we found out that that was a USP. A lot of competitors, even the bigger brands, just offered the actual physical massage, but not the coaching that comes with it. And a lot of people need that. So she found that. So all of that happened through multiple conversations and strategy sessions, then nailing down her ideal client. So someone who wants to get both, right? They understand the reason behind doing what they're doing together. So all of these things. So then we went ahead and did the design aspect of it, creation of the brand. So I would say that came from a lot of feelings that she had. So she wanted people, whoever would like bump into their social media account, to feel warm, someone who could actually help them, like genuinely help them. So we used a lot of green, like nature, and then yellow so that they feel joy. Joy was really important. Someone who feels happy, and she is someone who comes from that background as well, someone who wants to give happiness. So a lot of things that come. So like turning the visuals into words. So basically that's how it goes, right? I hope I'm answering the question and we're getting somewhere.
I'm not sure about answering the question, but
Okay.
You're definitely answered the question. I guess what I'm trying to, and I like that, but what I'm trying to find out is that so far I've heard you say two clear things. One is this help female service providers actually get their brand across, right? Go from a messy brand to a strong, clear one that clearly communicates what service are they providing, why should people choose it, what sort of emotions are attached to it, what sort of language, catchphrases, visuals, etc. That part is clear. You do that, and you probably do that well, and you do it for female service providers, which is a little bit of a niche, but it's still a big one. And there you do, that's very much the freelance brand design. Then there's the other part where you say you help them overcome that fear of being judged and of putting themselves out there. Right? Did this woman here, did she have need of that as well?
Yeah.
Got it.
So, yeah. So she shared something that helped me understand her a little better. So, snippets from her personal experience. And the whole idea of, so she approached me after, this was for her business. She approached me after that for her personal brand. So she felt like she was empowered. So she felt like I think I need my own brand. So I need to stand out apart from the business name, right? She had a co-founder as well in that business. So she felt like I want to create my own brand so that I can help, like me as a person, individual, I can help. So I feel there is a connection with that. So she, initially she was little, she knew what she wanted. I would say, like, answering your question, like multiple people, like they know what they want. Sometimes they don't, but the strategy helps, right? Helps them clear their head, like get things like articulate more to understand themselves better. So there are two things. So when they're clear, good, the strategy makes it stronger. When they're not, it helps them get clarity and then confidence in terms of getting that brand out there as well.
Sure. And I guess what I'm looking for here is there's a huge difference between clients who say, I already know that I need help with my brand because it's a little bit unclear and it's a little bit messy and it's not structured and it's a little bit hit and miss. And I need somebody to help me with the strategy. I need somebody to help me with the messaging. I need somebody who understands colors, words, visuals, etc. But I'm totally fine with being out there. I'm not afraid. I don't need to be fierce. I'm fierce already, but I need somebody to help me turn that fierceness into something other people understand. I need somebody who speaks a different language, so to speak. And then there's the other part, which is somebody who says, I'm a bit afraid. I need somebody to help me conquer that fear. I need to become fierce. And what I'm saying is that I think the order of how you present that is quite important. Is it I help women service providers move from fear to fierce and help them build their brands? Or is it by building their brands? Or is it and then build their brands? Or is it to build their brands? I know this is small words, but it's pretty important, at least from a story, from a branding part of view, to what are you doing first and what are you doing second, or are you doing it at the same time? And I think that right now, the way you present it compared to how you speak doesn't, to me at least, match up. I don't think you make these women go from fear to fierce by building brands people trust and remember. I think you help them go from fear to fierce and then build brands people trust and remember.
Mm.
Or to build brand, right? Or use that fierceness and show that fierceness to the world. Because you're saying two things, to me at least. You're saying, I can help you be less afraid. And once we've gotten rid of that fear, or as part of that, I can help you show the world who you are.
Yeah. I think it's both.
Oh, but you are both. But there's a imagine two sentences. One is saying, Zainab, I help people show who they are to the world. And once the world has seen them, they stop being afraid. Or saying, I help people be less afraid. And once they're less afraid, I help them show themselves to the world.
Hmm.
These are quite different.
Yeah. Hmm.
It's the same actions, but there's a big difference in who it appeals to. If it's somebody who says, okay, I'm actually pretty afraid of getting out there. I'm afraid of making a LinkedIn post, or I'm afraid of mailing somebody from my network and asking who if they need my services, my massage or my coaching. I'm afraid of doing that because what if they don't like me? What if they're all this and that? Then the fear part is first, and then the what does it look like? What does the brand look like? What does it feel like? Come after. On the other hand, if that's not the fear, if there's no fear, it's just I don't know what to do. It's a very, very different thing. And I think that since you do both, I think that if you are crystal clear on which one comes first, or at least how those two play together, that's going to make it much easier for you to attract people, especially when it's something as kind of unclear as a brand. Right? If you just made shoes, it would be easy. Then they could say, I like them or I don't like them. But here it's a little bit more fuzzy, and that means you need to be clear.
I think there are, what I think how it plays is when there is a bigger brand identity project, wherever strategy comes into place, or bigger social media project, wherever strategy comes into place, it's helping them get that fear out of their body and then approaching the project, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
And then if it's a much smaller project, like for example, creating social media templates, so that is, the brand is helping them find confidence because they don't really have to start from scratch every time they want to post. They can just use the template, and that gives them confidence to show up more online.
Yeah.
So that's how these two things play, is what I feel at the moment.
I like that. That just makes it a little bit, not harder, but it means that either you're doing two different things, or it's hard to figure out who is. I think at the core of this is that we want people to look at you or meet you and say, this is exactly what I need. And that means that either you do two things at once, or you do one thing, or you do one thing, or you do this and this separately. Right? You could be I teach you how to dance and I teach you how to sing, or I teach you how to sing and dance, or I teach you how to dance, I teach you how to sing. All combinations work, but if it's not clear, it's four different groups. If I only want to learn how to sing, then I'm not interested in somebody who will teach me how to sing and dance.
Yeah. I have another opinion, okay? So I don't really know if people think that much. I feel like whenever some people read Fear to Fears, they associate their own life experiences to it. So they take it however they want to take it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I feel like they don't really think about how they're going to go from Fear to Fears. They just know that they are going to go from Fear to Fears. So I feel like the words may or may not matter. Like the messaging obviously matters, how I put myself out there. But I feel like when they see these two things, I feel it's a nice wordplay that people sort of associate me with. But also I feel like they associate their own, whatever they want to like take out of it, and then get their own understanding. And it's very subjective, I get that. But in the business world, does it work? Because I feel it doesn't. But on a personal level, if they get what they want out of it, then who is it harming?
I love the fact that in this conversation where one of us makes a living and is very good at being a brand designer is the person saying, no, it doesn't matter too much with the messaging. It's like the brand isn't that important. Don't worry about it. Don't.
So not the messaging. I mean the wordplay.
Yes.
Like, I don't know if it came across as the messaging, because that's not what I meant, like the entire messaging, but it's just that, like those two words, I feel like it's smart. I mean, you tell me, like, how do I sort of make it clear? Because a lot of things, it's very tricky.
I think the first thing is that you need to decide yourself. I think that's at the core of all this, is that, and especially from our conversation here, I think that you have not yet decided whether you want to teach them to sing or to dance, or to sing and dance, because you can do both. And sometimes you do one, sometimes you do the other. sometimes you do both. Because if I looked at this, right now I'm not a female service provider, so I'm kind of not the optimal target audience anyway. But if we pretend for a moment that I had little less of a beard and more of a female upbringing, then I could say, ready to bring your vision to life with your brand identity online. Oh, well, I could use help with that because
Hmm.
my brand is messy and yeah, I could use help. Then it says move from fear to fierce. Then I say, hell no, I don't need that. I'm pretty fierce already. Not a lot of fear there, right? So to me, your one part of your brand identity is interesting. Can you help me with my brand identity? Yeah, that's potentially interesting. But moving from fear to fierce, nah, not so much. There, I more would think, you know what? I teach that. I don't really need other people to teach me that. Where if it had just said move from fear to fierce, then I would know, oh, this is completely not for me. If it said ready to bring your brand, blah, 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 then I would say, oh, this is potentially for me. And now it's like I want half of it, but I don't want the other half. And I'm not sure if they're connected. Does it make more sense now?
Yeah. So hands down, I would want to focus more on the actual deliverable. That's the actual creating brand identity and social media branding and all of that. Hands down. What I feel what sets me apart is the other part.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But if it's making it confusing and complicated, I can sort of add the emotional part, then people would know that eventually. But I can focus and double down my messaging on just what I provide. But also, I feel like that's what any other brand designer is doing right now.
Yes.
So, how do I actually find another USP that is true to what I offer and true to my essence as a brand designer?
Now we've got it, right? Now we've got it. Because there, okay, so if the focus is more there, because I know that whenever you're in a room and you help them, of course you'll help them with their fear. Of course you'll turn them fierce. Of course. That's not necessarily what you're selling, but that's what you're doing. That's fine, right? I don't sell listening, but I tend to do it from time to time as well. Once in a while. But then the question is, okay, if you're just a freelance brand designer, how do you not get lost in a sea of freelance brand designers? How many women's service providers have you helped so far with brand identity? Is that a huge number, or is it a small number, or is it is it a big enough number that it's an argument in itself?
I would say pretty decent number. So, somewhere between small and medium.
Got it. But you can't say I've helped 100 plus female service providers with their brand identity.
I would say around 50.
Okay, that's pretty nice. That's a pretty solid number. Because if you go out and say, I'm Zainab, I help female service providers, or even if you maybe even more clear, saying, I have already helped 50 plus female service providers or female entrepreneurs in service businesses with their brand, with crafting stronger brand identities. Do you want to be next? Then it's suddenly very easy for me to say, I want that. I want to be next. Or no, that's not what I want at all. Because suddenly, if in the world of freelance brand designers, you're the one who helps female entrepreneurs in service businesses or female service providers, depending on which wording you like. And you've helped quite a lot of them. And that's your specialty. And then the question is, hey, do you want to trust this person who has helped many others like you? It's the classic and this is from the entertainment industry, is if you have a kid and that kid has a 7-year birthday, Saga is turning 7 soon, so that's an obvious go-to for me. And we're considering that we want to hire somebody to do a birthday party for her. And we have 3 options. One is called kidsbirthdayparty.com, and the other is called wildbirthdayparties.com, and the third is called batmanbirthdays.com. It's pretty obvious that if she likes Batman, we're going for the Batman birthday party. And if she doesn't, then we're not going for them. And then if she doesn't like Batman, then we're thinking, do we want the generalists who can probably do everything? Or do we want the ones who specialized in wild birthday parties? Okay, well, she's a little bit wild and crazy. We're calling the wild people immediately. Even that small, tiny exercise in narrowing down the segment And if you say female service providers, I would actually, if I was you, I'd call it female entrepreneurs and services, or entrepreneurs or freelancers, depending on what you're most to, because a woman service provider, that can be somebody who's the vice president of McDonald's, which might be fun, but is trying to figure out what does that client look like. And the more they can say, oh, that's me, right? Imagine you came to me and said, Klaus, we haven't met, but I help middle-aged white guys in their 40s who have creative, interesting businesses and wild profiles. I help them with their brand messaging. Okay, well, that's me. Tell me more, right? But if you say, hey, Klaus, I'm a brand designer, I'd say, great. Why are we talking? Even if it's the same skill set, the more you are for someone, the less you are for everyone. And the more you are for everyone, the less you are for someone. And freelance brand designer, that's broad. It's really, really broad. Where if it said, I help women between 20 and 30 or women in their late 20s turn brand dreams into brand realities. Okay, well, that's a little bit closer. And it doesn't really matter which way you take that. As long as the more specific you get, the more easy it is for people to say, that's me. And of course, the trick is that there is some sort of golden spot that works for you. If you know 800 people named Peter, then you could probably create a good business out of saying, I help people named Peter with their brand identity. But if you've only got one friend named Peter, then it's going to be tricky.
Yeah.
At least to begin with.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'm hearing you say is that it's better if I narrow down and get clarity, first of all, on who I want to help, so that they sort of resonate something and they say that, okay, that's me, and they approach me. And then the services aspect comes from it, right?
I would say that, yeah, because you're the only way to differentiate, either if you have the experience or you have the ethos, right? You have the brand stature. I've done this for 61 years. Okay, well, that counts for something. Or I've served 8 million clients, right? The more you have there, that's clear for people to see. But when you don't have that, the one thing you can't say, or you can say it, but doesn't really work that well, is saying, oh, but I take it more seriously than the others, or I really mean it, right? We all say we don't lie, but I'm not lying. Okay, really nice of you.
Yeah.
Take what you have and and I think that 50 plus of a certain type of client, I think that's pretty impressive.
So that's a combination.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a combination of brand identity services, brand kits. There are a lot of other things that come from it, but I would say 50 entrepreneurs I've helped them achieve something or create something that's related to their brand and their business.
Bingo.
Right? Yeah.
That's super impressive. And that's also pretty clear, because then people can say, okay, I'm somebody like them. I'd like her help. She seems to know what she's doing. Also, I've gotten her recommended, or I like the smile, or I like the website, or, oh, that color scheme appeals to me, whatever that is. Where I think, for example, that fear to fierce, I think that unless that's what you're selling, then I would hide that and have you do it as part of the work, of course. That's when you're in the room and you say, hey, let's figure out what you're doing, and say, well, you know what? I don't know if this applies to you, but many of the women I work with, it turns out that one of the first things we work on is how they can move from fear to fierce, because before they figure out what they want, they need to find out that it's okay to want something. And then they either say, yeah, I don't have that problem, or they say, oh my God, you read me so well, let's talk some more. But that's in the process, right? You're not selling that, you're doing that.
Yeah.
Would be my thinking on it. I think just take yourself through your own process. That'll do wonders.
Yeah.
That'll do wonders for it.
Good idea.
I love that you have the free design audit. How often do you do design audits for people you'd like to work with?
yeah, the number was bigger, I would say last year. But now I just feel like they just come in for that free thing and then they disappear or ghost me or whatever.
Not that way. No, no, no. Those are the ones who come to you. No, I'm thinking that if there's somebody you'd like to work with, some company or founder or something like that you'd like to work with, just without them knowing you, just write and say, hey, you don't know me. I'm Zainab. I've just done a free design audit for your brand. And by the way, I think you do amazing stuff. And as a way of celebrating what you do, then here's a free design audit. You can use it or you can ignore it. And if you think that I'm wrong, then just delete it and have a good day. Keep being awesome. And if you like it, well, then it's actually what I do. So I'll be happy to take some of your money later. But right now, this is a gift. Because you could do that every day.
Like a cold outreach.
Like a cold outreach, but where you offer somebody something, or maybe even like a public outreach, right? You don't have to do it. And again, if you're doing something in public, you could easily do it as long as you do it kindly, right? If let's say that I made a LinkedIn post about your brand without knowing you, but just went onto LinkedIn and onto your website and looked at it, and then I said, hey, today's case study in branding is Zainab Quresh. Here's things she does really well. Here's 5 things Zainab does really well. Here's 3 things that inspire me. I don't know her, but I think she does cool work. Here's an example, right? If you get tagged in that or hear about that, you're gonna check it out. And if you like what you see, then you might remember me for the future, or maybe not. But if somebody else you see, so again, you have an advantage that you can show what you do. I'm not saying just go off and do nothing but this, because at some point it would be nice to pay some bills as well. But you can actually show off your skills to some people reasonably fast, because you can look at where they are. Just like I could easily look at your LinkedIn page and have comments about it. And then you can say, yeah, Klaus, I think you're wrong. Or you could say, okay, I get that. Or you can say, let me think on it. But at least it's something I can give to you, and then you can do what you will with it.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I do that on Instagram. So it's like a free design audit on my stories, and I tag them. And it's usually something that I do one-on-one, like on a one-on-one basis, on a call or something, or I've previously done one-on-one. And then I sort of share it. I ask them, obviously, for their consent, that if I share whatever we've learned so that it can help more people. So they agree to it. And then I post it. So these were the 5 things that came out of so-and-so's design audit. And then I post it and tag them. Or I do a question sticker on Instagram, like, who would like a free design audit? And then I get responses. And then I do that in the following month or week, whatever. So and I pin it on my highlights on Instagram. So a lot of people have come to me asking about it, because it shows what I'm doing. I'm in my element, basically. They're giving free design audits.
That's super cool. And also a way of helping some people. And when you don't have enough to do, you can do more of them. And when you've got plenty to do, you can do less of them. No, I love that. That's a nice button, because even if it's not clear what it brings in, it definitely helps build your own brand by doing that. Lovely. Zainab, though going down the brand rabbit hole is a place where I could stay for hours, we are getting to the point where we should round this off. And that means 2 things. The first, or it means several, but the first of these things is I want to thank you for sharing your challenges, not just with me, but also with our listeners. There's probably going to be somebody sitting out there thinking, that resonated. I can feel I'm not in the same shoes, but I'm in similar shoes. I'm also struggling with my brand. And if even a brand designer is, then it's okay, I am, right? So thank you for sharing that. That takes courage and kindness. So thank you. The second part is I want you to take a moment and I want you to think of 3 things you take away from our conversation They can be negative, they can be positive, they can be things that you're going to do differently or things that you've thought of in a new way, or it can be, you know what, I've thought of it and I still think you're an idiot on this point. That's also okay. But three things that you take away from this conversation. Think about it for a moment and then share.
No, I have notes. I literally have notes. I've taken it out because this is like very valuable. I have more than three and mostly positive. So thank you. The biggest takeaway would be that product and emotional and empowerment part, dividing the two, because I honestly didn't think of it as two different aspects. And people are thinking of it like that, because I thought that fear to fears is just like a byproduct. It's like my bigger vision that is connected to my product, but actually it may not be, right? If I don't want it to be. So it can be the doing, like you said, not the selling, which makes sense, right? So definitely a new perspective there. Also the messaging aspect, like definitely need to simplify it and focus on how my ideal client would perceive this, and if they would resonate and benefit from it, and they would think that, yeah, this is me, I need this. I mean, this is something that I have been hearing, but even now, like, I feel like it needs to get better, needs to get, more clear. Like right now, I know that I've worked on it for like, I think 5 years, right? So I think it's clear now, but unless I do get this external opinion or like an expert opinion on it, I obviously know I can refine it and tweak it and make it better. And finally, I would say getting more focused on the actual ideal client. Like you said, women service providers, I just felt very natural, and people do get that. But you said female entrepreneurs and services. So that's also interesting, because, I do think few words here and there, like I could sort of make it more, like make it better, in terms of the right set of women as well.
Thank you for that. And thank you for sharing, and happy that there are some notes there. Very much appreciated. Thank you also to our listeners out there for being flies on the wall in our conversation. We hope you take something from this as well. And this has been the Innovation Coaching Podcast. You have heard Zainab Quresh and me, your host, Klaus Russell. Thank you for listening.